Welcome to Political Trade Secrets, an inside look at campaigns and politics, where we pull back the curtain, look under the hood, and investigate all aspects of politics and how elections are won. Now, here's your host, Dustin Olson.
Hey, hi everybody. We're having a little sound difficulty there, but we are looking forward to a great show today. Glad you're all joining us. The topic today is watching game tape to level up your campaign performance. This is for anybody out there, whether you're a candidate or a powerful political leader or looking to become one. There are a lot of sports going on right now. A lot of playoffs are happening. And this is a great opportunity to take a look at that and see how that can help you as a candidate. So, as always, we are here to empower you, our fellow Americans, to be the most effective citizens and most powerful political leaders your community, states, and our country need to reignite American patriotism. And so, we have a fundamental belief that all citizens of this country can be political leaders, regardless of whether you hold office or not. And we are live now across the internet on 12 different platforms. So wherever you are, join into the conversation. You can do that by commenting or asking questions. And it doesn't matter if you're on Twitch, Twitter, Facebook. Some things I'm certain I've never heard of. We're everywhere. That's all I know.
But right.
You can post your questions live. And look, you can also love, wow the show. You can follow, subscribe, and you can make sure to sign up for notifications. And so. So yeah, and it looks like we have the sound resolved. So welcome back.
All right. Well, it's great to be here, and thank you. If you'd like to join us in this effort to inspire and empower our fellow Americans to be the most powerful political leaders they can be for their community, for their state, and for our country, you can go to politicaltradesecrets.com, sign up to be a Political Trade Secrets Insider, get exclusive stuff, and we really do love everybody who's joined us over there. And as you know, we do love getting text messages from everybody in our audience, and we have a number of the comments and questions that we've gotten are actually informing our shows. We'll tell people about our show tomorrow for the weekly podcast show that's going to be out on all the podcasting platforms. I think we're going to be having a special guest for that, but it really does inform us as to where we're going to spend time and what we're going to talk about is your input. So you can text me at 202-918-3345. Again, that's 202-918-3345. And thank you to everybody who takes a moment to text us there and to give us your thoughts. But ultimately, what we're going to do is we're going to send you resources from the show, all the freshest political trade secrets. Those are the ones that are going to go out. So thank you to everybody who has joined us on the texting community.
Yeah. And look, you also have an opportunity. The best way to get involved and to be a part of the program and to empower as many powerful political leaders in your sphere is by sharing the program now. You can do it right down there. And you can join the Share Force. and make a difference and reignite American patriotism. So it is as simple as sharing wherever you are. So we really do appreciate that.
All right. Well, what else do
Yeah.
you want to tell people?
Yeah, look, there is another way to get involved. Look, are you thinking about running for office, or you just want to see how you can be the most powerful political leader you can be in your community? Reach out to us at Olson Strategies. It's Olson strategies.com. You can email me, Sean, SEAN, at olsonstrategies.com, or Dustin at olsonstrategies.com. We would love to have a conversation with you. If you're thinking about running for office, we'd love to talk to you about what it takes to run for office. If you're already running for office, we'd love to just see how we can work together with you on that. And if you have an organization, we would just like to empower that so that we can empower and reignite American patriotism. And if you are thinking about, hey, I'd like to actually work in politics and make a difference, email us. Send us your resumes. We have our fellows and our internship program, of course, but we're also hiring folks. So we've got a lot of different opportunities, whether it be campaign management, campaign coordination, or field directors. We're looking for them all. So do send those in. So look forward to having a conversation with any and all of you today.
Excellent. And if you do want to help inspire and empower those in your communities, if you would like to get the message out there, to inspire somebody to step up, to run for office, to show up, to speak up, to really stand up for what matters in this country, and to help reignite American patriotism, they can now join the Share Force. So join Share Force, make a difference, reignite American patriotism is the way to go, and we appreciate everybody. It's as simple as right there on whatever platform you're on, you can hit the share button, you can hit the retweet button, you can send it by carrier pigeon, it doesn't matter. Whatever you want to do, you can send it that way. We really do appreciate it. So we're going to be talking about I don't know if there's any headlines that you want to hit today, but so you're not, you don't think there's really much in the world that's happening?
I do know that we have Joe Biden's overseas.
Mm-hmm.
He is so
he's
there
in
might
Great Britain right now, and he's heading eventually going to be meeting with Vladimir Putin in Switzerland, and that's I don't know. I wish him the best on that. And unlike the Democrats, who John Kerry famously is coordinating with Iran while Donald Trump was in office, and that is it's un-American and it's a terrible thing to do. And John Kerry is a real piece of work for doing that. And we're not going to attack our foreign policy as the president of the United States is abroad. So one thing I do want to say, to look through all of the goofiness that is Joe Biden, I will say that it was nice to see something unique in my lifetime, is to see a Democrat president with the troops who actually seemed to like him and actually seemed to have some rapport with him. So he gave a speech. There's all the other goofy things that you get with Joe Biden, but it was nice to see him there and seemingly actually really happy to see the troops and to honor the troops. And so that was something I appreciated, seeing him over there in Great Britain.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think for everything else that we have about Joe, he's a seemingly affable guy, unless you challenge him. Then he calls you a pony soldier and a no good lying pony soldier or something. I can't remember, but anyway, that was years ago. But it still applies. But anyway, I think it's good, and a strong relationship with Great Britain is critical.
Yeah. By the way, we have a couple of comments already. So
Yeah.
Colin said that the title for today's video intrigued him, and he's excited to see what we have in store. And I'm really glad that you said that. And then Mark, thank you for letting us know there's no volume. And that was just simply that was a gremlin on the internet.
Yep.
But thank you for letting us know that. And Mark also said that. He's giving up the group Republicans 2020, which we post in regularly, and asked if we'd like to be administrators. We'd love to. We'd love to promote Republicans in all election cycles. But yes, we'd love to support you on that. And thank you very much for your leadership in bringing Republicans together to be successful. It was, despite the outcomes, we can tell you as political consultants, we can tell when across the board we have a successful election cycle. And 2020 was a pretty successful election cycle across the board for Republicans and state legislatures in the Congress. And I don't know, for president as well. I mean, we got more votes than any president has gotten in their reelection. So who knows about all that stuff? But all I can say is it was a pretty good 2020 for Republicans, and we'd love to support Republicans in 2022 and 2024. So anyway, Mark, thank you very much for your comments, and we appreciate you joining the show.
Yeah. And we do have a great show in store today, so I'm looking forward to talking about this. Mm-hmm. And I know what inspired it. It was a conversation between us. We just happened to be talking that there are playoffs going on right now, and for the NBA, so basketball and the NHL, hockey, and
so for the Americans, if you're probably watching the NHL, for those over in China, you're probably watching the NBA, and we get it. So this is the global conversm. I'm sure people are having about the playoffs.
For Silicon Valley, mm-hmm. we're having the NBA conversation. Mm-hmm. What it got us, as we were talking about it got us talking about the fact that there is something to be learned by the people who have been able to make it to this point. Mm-hmm. And what is that? Well, they had to do some things well to do it.
Yep.
They basically, had to put structures in place to be able to have more wins and losses. They they needed to be able to, have more assists than turnovers. They needed to be able to have more, shots hit the mark than not. And so how do you do that? Well, one thing that we really got, and if you go back to really Michael Jordan is one of these guys, but a lot of the guys in the past have really done it by watching the game tape, mm-hmm. really taking a look at it. Now, so Dustin, why is it important first to be getting game tape of the things you want to be able to do well, or where the performance takes place, so to speak?
Yeah, so I think back when I was, so this is something, if Coach O'Dwyer is watching, he's one of my football coaches, but one of my favorite memories from practice, probably because we weren't out there in the hot August weather doing two-a-days, but when is after either a scrimmage or after a game, we would watch the game tape. On probably that Monday or over the weekend, we'd get together and probably have popcorn and whatever else, but we would actually watch the game. And it gives you a completely different perspective. And one of the things that we talk a lot about with strategy is that to really be able to be a good strategist, you have to be able to see things from different perspectives. It's one of the reasons why having a coach is so important, because you can't see yourself when you're actually playing. You can't see yourself shooting the baskets. You can't see yourself making the plays. And the same thing for a candidate. A candidate can't see themselves from the perspective of the audience. And it's really helpful to have a political strategist like us helping you, or some communication specialist to help you as you're preparing for like a debate or for media prep for an interview. It's always good to have a coach. That coach is providing an outside view. They're giving you coaching based on being able to watch you in the process of doing that. Well, the only way to give you the ability to coach yourself, to add on to that ability, is to actually watch yourself as though you are the coach. And we have found that this is one of the things that can level up somebody in their performance very quickly in all manners of communications, is to actually use video. And it's become so easy with cell phone cameras the way they are today. It is so easy to do this. And I think it's really important for people to actually take some time every single day and to record themselves and then go back and watch it. You don't have to record everything you do, but it's very helpful to be able to actually be your own coach. And when we do this, we actually, before we give any constructive criticism or points as to what the strong suits are, we actually will let the candidate do that first. So as we talk about it, so you mentioned Michael Jordan, and Michael Jordan is famous for this, and you might share with people what it was he did. So when he first started with the Bulls, he was considered a top basketball player before he even joined the Bulls. People knew that he was top notch, yet they weren't quite performing to the level that they ultimately ended up performing. And what happened?
Yeah, so really, it took the first 6 years of his career. They would first started by not making the playoffs, and then making the playoffs but losing pretty early on. So what Michael Jordan got in the practice of was really looking at the game tape, but not to look and see what was wrong. Really, what he was really focused on was trying to find what was missing. So when he watched the tape early on, he saw that he was doing most of the things objectively that you would do right. I mean, he was in the MVP hunt. So plenty of people could say, well, I'm doing my part, and these guys aren't doing theirs, and have it just be, okay, well, that's what's going on. But what Michael Jordan really looked at is, okay, how does this team get better?
Mm-hmm.
And unlike today's NBA, where the answer for half the teams is, oh, just go find another superstar and figure it out.
Yeah, or bend a knee and genuflect to China.
Yeah, exactly. What Michael Jordan said was, well, that's not the way we do it here. What do we do? Well, so he was looking for what was missing.
Mm-hmm.
The presence of which would make the difference. So be able to really get into that. So what he saw was missing was teamwork, really, but in particular passing.
Yeah.
So he was a great shooter. He had really turned himself into a great shooter. What he wasn't was, passing the ball a lot, and he wasn't doing some of the other things.
Yeah, so things that you'd call teammanship or being a team member.
Exactly. So he started to incorporate that.
Mm-hmm.
So the question. So what happened out of that? Well, Scottie Pippen became a all-star.
Yeah.
And Dennis Rodman was freed up to get rebounds and dress in wedding dresses and go to North Korea. Oh wait,
many different things. And there's a prominent Trump supporter, and
that's right,
which is great.
But he was given a lot of freedom. But then role players were really able to do their roles, because what good is having a great perimeter shooter like Steve Kerr when you don't get him the ball?
Yep.
Nice.
So you gave other people a chance to rise and to make a difference, and the whole team as a whole, it started just performing better as a team, as a machine, the well-oiled machine. And what was their what did they end up? I never get the exact number of championships that they got.
They got 6 championships
in 7 years.
8 years.
In 8 years. That's great. So that's I don't know, has that ever been replicated?
Well, and you got to remember that the 2 years that they didn't win, Michael Jordan became a baseball player.
That's right.
Well, so it was 6 and 6 years, really, but he took 2 years off. But I mean, that is unheard of.
Yeah.
Without being the super team. we do build these super teams, and you start to see these things now. But this really was Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and a bunch of role players.
Yeah.
And nothing wrong with that. It was actually built to, they had a system that worked. So Phil Jackson had a system as the coach, but Michael Jordan was looking for what is it that's missing in the system that makes a difference?
Yeah.
So,
and Phil Jackson is, I think his book, I think it's called 11 Rings, which is loosely based off of Miyamoto Musashi's The Book of Five Rings. Of course, it's a playing on both sides because Jackson's also kind of a Zen martial arts aficionado or expert, but he wanted to evoke that. Of course, he also has 11 rings, I think actual physical rings that you would actually, Miyamoto Musashi was the great samurai warrior and wrote that book, The Book of Five Rings, which is a great strategy book for anybody to read. So getting into the tape part, one of the comments we have here from Alex is that this sounds like an awesome way for candidates to get really good at improving fundraising calls. And that is absolutely right. That might be the absolute best place to use this. So, Sean, remind me, we want to come back to all the different ways you can use this in a moment. And I'm going to use actually fundraising calls as an example, but this can be debate prep. This is really important in debate prep. If you're going to be doing TV hits, if you're going to be doing stand-up interviews for TV, you want to be able to replicate this and practice this over and over. And last week we had a really important concept, a really important axiom that we have shared. This is a strategic mindset. What you do daily gets done. Yep. And this is the thing about this. This is so simple, and you will level up no matter what. I promise you, 100% guarantee you are going to level up by doing this. Will you become the next Ronald Reagan? I don't know. Probably not. But you are going to be playing at a higher level if you do video yourself and then watch the video. It's really important. You have to watch the game tape. Yeah. Otherwise, it's not going to help you get better. So it's not just for doing things that are out in the public. You can actually record mock interviews. You can record mock fundraising calls and then go back and critique it. So the process for it, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to say one thing. So will you become the next Ronald Reagan? And I think you rightfully said probably not. Because let's not forget that Ronald Reagan actually had 50 years of footage.
Yes.
Years. I mean, from radio before there was much videotaping, but so he could hear himself that way. And you can actually, if you go back, you can actually hear changes in his voice where he actually focused on that. Then his
voice definitely changed over time, but he had actual film. He probably even had outtakes that he watched before even his films were presented. He did multiple takes. I mean, that's what he was doing through the 40s.
Yeah, yeah. And then even in the 50s, he was the GE pitch guy. Mm-hmm. And so he kept being on camera. And he couldn't help but watch himself on camera then. It was on before, half the shows that were on television at the time. So, and the same in the 60s. And actually, probably when he got to office, he probably had to practice a little less. But by that time, he was really getting something from everything that he was doing with it. But that really goes to show you how much practice it really took for Ronald Reagan to become Ronald Reagan.
Yeah, he was able to test things and then look at it. So this is a really important concept that came up in our episode with Scott Young, the author of Ultra Learning, which is an excellent episode. Recommend people go back and look at that, as well as read the book. But Ultra Learning really is, he's taken in a number of practices, 9 of them specifically, and put them together to, if you wanted to do a deep dive and become an expert, say, in some topic, or you wanted to add a new skill really quickly, you can use this process. Now, what he describes in his book, and he was very fascinated when he came on, we had the conversation, is that he never really thought about it applying to politics. But the truth is, every single campaign for every single candidate, especially a first-time candidate, is an ultra learning project where you're learning deep skills in communications and in persuasion, in fundraising, and you name it. There's so many different skill sets that you get to develop as a candidate. And one of the important principles of the ultra learning process is feedback loops, and having a feedback mechanism, and the idea is to have it as short and tight as possible. So you do the thing, and then you have a feedback mechanism that you're able to see it, and you can get input very quickly. It doesn't mean criticism, but it just means you get to see the fruit of it. The example he gives in the book that's like the fastest feedback mechanism you could possibly have is specifically stand-up comedians. If you're a stand-up comedian, you get direct feedback immediately. If you tell a joke that doesn't land, you know that in the comedy club that did not work. So you can go to work on making it better. So that's what we're actually talking about when we're talking about doing the videoing yourself throughout the day, or at least every single day. I would recommend people do at least one video and then watch it. You don't have to get hours and hours of tape to watch, but at least do something. So the process is as simple. Let's use the fundraising calls as an example. You're going to be doing. Go ahead.
Before we go into that, I just wanted to say feedback loops are so important, and one of our sponsors has a great way for you to have an instant feedback loop as well. That's our friends at 10centtexting.com. Right here on your mobile device, there it is. Look, you can actually tailor the message to get feedback, ask for feedback, and have that delivered. And you can do it with an image, GIF, or short video right there in the body of the text message. It could be sending the video out and say, let me know what you think. Let me know what you think of my 15 seconds here. Mm-hmm. And get the feedback. Well, that is something that you can do, and it is unique to 10centtexting.com. And you can actually carry on a conversation with them if you want. So don't miss that opportunity. Create these feedback loops wherever you can. This is one that you get to do. What we're talking about today is one that you get to do internally and really create that. So we want to make sure that for the external ones that you've got a lot of different ways to do it. So it's 10centtexting.com.
Yeah, that's really great. This is a conversation I had yesterday with a couple of top-notch direct mail vendors. Direct mail is wonderful. It's very helpful in all sorts of different races, and you don't get to have direct feedback. And so I recommend anybody who might do direct mail to get in contact with the folks at 10centtexting.com. Specifically, you could add this on to your direct mail process. You send out a piece of mail. Now, you're never going to hear back from those people what they think about it. But if you have a GIF or a rich image that is developed for text that follows the message and the imagery of your direct mail piece, it's not that much more to add that on and have it go out the day that your direct mail piece hits people's mailboxes. And if you have a direct mail vendor or you're using Olson strategies for direct mail, I recommend contacting 10centtexting.com to go ahead and do it yourself and to add that on for your campaign, because you're going to get feedback. You're actually going to get a better idea if your direct mail works, because people will respond to the text the day they get the direct mail piece and they get your text message. They'll get that these messages match, and you will, whatever they tell you back from that, it's going to inform you as to whether your direct mail piece worked also. So anyway, just a little extra pro tip that we can throw in there. So yes, feedback loops are extremely, extremely important. So the video process is creating that so that you can improve very rapidly. And let's take fundraising calls as an example. We view fundraising calls as actually the number one communications task that you're going to do. So a lot of people separate these. They think about them. They stovepipe them. They put them in completely different buckets. But the truth is, if you're running a good campaign, you're going to do most of your communication on the phone with donors. These are influential people that you are enrolling in your vision. You're getting them excited about your vision and getting them to take action on your vision. That's a really maybe not complex, but it's an important communications skill to be able to present an idea and present it in such a way that the person on the other end is willing to take action to fulfill whatever your vision is. So that's ultimately what you're doing in a fundraising call. That's a communications task. So the first thing to do is, it's as simple as you start out making phone calls. You can use your computer. QuickTime is an easy way to do a video, or you can use your phone. or you can simply just use the however you're doing it, or you can have your campaign manager take video of it. The point is, you're not going to ever put this out there, so you're not going to be doing anything that's a problem for the donor, but you're going to get yourself on tape talking to somebody, and then after you get done with that, you're going to watch. I'd watch your body language. I'd watch your facial expressions. I would listen for what was important to the donor on the other end and what you said, and just listen to it. And this is the rule of thumb. So you actually talked about it when you talked about Michael Jordan, and Phil Jackson.
He listened to tape of him too.
Yes, I'm sure he did. But Michael Jordan and Phil Jackson, and if you put them together, you get Michael Jackson. So he looked at what worked, what didn't work, and then on what didn't work, he looked at what was missing, the presence of which would make a difference. So that's exactly the process that you're going to take when you look at your video. And I would say it's really important to first, when you listen to it, for every single person on this planet, you are going to first hate your voice, because, and the truth is, very few people have a terrible voice. It's going to sound terrible to you because it sounds weird to you, because you hear your voice through the bones in your head. And that's how your voice occurs to you, is based off of you hear it through the bone structure in your head. So you are always going to sound different to yourself than you do to everybody else that you know. And it's just going to sound off to you. If you do this enough, if you're doing this daily, even if it's just for 5-10 minutes each day, after a while, it's not going to bug you anymore. Sean and I have done enough of these episodes that at this point we know what our internal voice sounds like, and then we know what it sounds like on video. And I don't know about you, but it doesn't bug me anymore. But when we started this process, it was kind of jarring to hear yourself differently than how you hear yourself all day. So that's the first thing, is you're going to not like that. You're also going to maybe not like how you look, because you're seeing yourself from a different perspective. Normally you see yourself in a mirror, so it's going to be a mirror image of yourself. You're going to see yourself a little bit differently than how other people see you. This is actually something that Instagram has done. I think a couple of the other apps is they actually flip the image, because it's more attractive to people based on how they see themselves in a mirror. So that's just something to be aware of. You're going to look different than what you think. So once you get past all of that, the job is to first listen for what works. What are the strengths? You're going to do this with no judgment. It's going to be hard, but do it with no judgment. Just look for what's working in your communication. And that's what you're going to build off of. If you come up with 5 things that are great, that you really think this works in your communication, well, then don't find more than 5 things on what's not working. Because we do have a tendency as human beings to focus on the negative. It's partly why fake news is the way it is. But it is partly because that's how we, probably evolutionarily have been able to survive, is you focus on the threat. Well, I get that you're going to want to focus on the negative, but don't go beyond. If you find 5 things that work, don't spend more time than finding 5 things that don't work. And then when you look at those, don't have a lot of judgment about it. Just look for what's missing, like Michael Jordan did. Look for what's missing in that aspect of your communication, the presence of which would make a difference. So, Sean, what are your thoughts about that? Is it just a general guideline?
Yeah, because here's the common thing that happens if you aren't actually looking at the tape for what's missing, the presence of which would make a difference. Like what you can add to it.
Mm-hmm.
Like Michael Jordan could have looked and said, "Well, I know what's missing: wins."
Mm-hmm.
Right? Okay. That's a pretty obvious thing, but how do you?
Is that something he has power over?
Yeah. How do you add wins to it? Well, unless he becomes the general manager and changes the complete makeup of the team, he has to change. What he has to look at is what can he do to cause more wins, which he did. He said, "Oh yeah, I could pass this orange round thing to somebody else instead of just putting it in the basket myself." And it doesn't mean there won't be games where I score 60 points, but there could be games where I score 12 points and have 20 assists.
And what you're describing there is you're describing not fixing something.
Yeah.
You're just describing adding something in or adding more of something in, or it could be taking something away.
Yeah.
So this is something that we talk about, the difference between being in your head versus performance, like actually performing. Performance is simply the actions you take versus the actions you take, the actions you don't take, and then the results that you get. If you take it like an inventor does, where you do an experiment, and if the experiment yields what you thought it would, that's great. If it yields something different, well, that's also great because you have learned something, and then you get to change that mix of the actions you take and the actions you don't take. And so that's ultimately what you're doing in this process.
Yeah. I look at this this way. I think about, so let's use the fundraising example, right? So people would say, well, what's missing? Money, right? Well, no.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is something you want, that you want to be raising out of this. Yeah. But most likely what's missing, we've seen a lot, is a direct ask,
mm-hmm.
A compelling reason to give
mm-hmm.
for somebody on the other end.
Clarity might be missing.
Yeah. I mean,
being clear or being energetic, being excited, or maybe your vision is missing in the conversation.
Look, any number of those things. You could also be being sheepish about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's.
This is one of our great friends in politics and former fundraiser. I think he's pretty much out of the fundraising business now. But Trent Edwards, many people probably know Trent. He's a great person. But he described, I'm not going to say who it was, but he described one time he got parachuted in to help a candidate elevate to level up their fundraising, and he sat with them for fundraising calls. And he said it's like every single time he made a phone call, it was like he was ringing someone's door to let them know that he just lit a bag of, he used the other term, poop on fire on their doorstep, and he apologized for it, but he still needed to do it. that was how the guy came across. Is like that's what he was doing, not fundraising, not talking about what he was going to do in Congress, not any of these kinds of things. It was he was lighting a bag of poo on their doorstep, and he's real sorry about it. That was how he came across. So if you might find that you just are not being a leader in that conversation, you're not being inspirational, whatever it is that might be missing from the conversation. A few things to look for when you're doing this, even if it's for a fundraising call where they aren't going to see you, is watch for your body language. What's your body language doing? And this goes for any kind of thing. Watch for what you're doing with your hands. Watch for your facial expressions, because that's going to give you a sense for what you're doing. And then we've already talked about a number of the aspects of the fundraising. So there's going to be specific things for each aspect. Let's go into another kind of thing. So I think you should do fundraising every single day. Tape yourself doing at least 1 or 2 calls. You can tape yourself doing a mock conversation with somebody and then watch it and see what happens. That's going to be a great way to do it. By the way, mocking is a really good way to do this as well. To have somebody, maybe have your finance chairman or someone on the finance committee join you, and you know they're the donor and you're going to make your ask. So let's talk about specifically on some of the more visual things if you are going to be doing a TV interview. So the way to do this is there's different kinds of TV interviews. You might do a stand-up interview, where the cameraman comes out and there's a reporter. They have the microphone in your face and you're standing up and you're looking at the reporter and the camera's getting like a cross shot of you. That's one kind of interview. And then you have the kind of interview where you are actually kind of like us and you're doing a TV hit, and this is what it's going to look like. So you're going to watch yourself. You're first going to look for what's working. Like, is your body posture good? Are you smiling? all those kinds of things. You're going to look for the visual cues and what's working, and then what's not working, and then you're going to listen to your voice. One of the things that I think I work on is having inflection in my voice and doing that. So that's one of the things that people you may have to work on. So these are the things you're going to be listening for and looking for and watching. The big thing that everybody's going to realize, and this is why video is so important. Every single campaign, they tell the candidate to smile more, right? Isn't that the thing that everybody says?
Yes.
And the truth is that when you watch the video, you're going to realize you got to smile more. And it's as simple as, even if you're doing a tough interview, we've talked about this before, even if you're doing a tough interview, you can smile without, if you're like talking about a somber topic, you can still have more of a smiling face than having a grimacing face. So it's just having lighter eyes and like a almost smile on your face. You can just look a little bit more pleasant when you are talking to folks. So you can watch for all these things. But the truth is, you don't have to overthink it. When you actually watch it, it's going to become much more clear than it would be from internally thinking about, what do I look like here? When you actually see it, you're going to go, oh, I get it. I need to smile more. It's really obvious. So that's the first thing that I would say that your people are probably going to tell you. And when you watch the video, you're going to notice.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, it really is informative when you get it. And you mentioned earlier, look, you're not going to like how you sound. You got to determine how much of that is like a legitimate point of view. Like if there's actually something in how you're speaking that might not be delivering the communication you want.
Yeah, your voice is your voice, and your voice will change over time. You can change the timbre, and maybe you need to take deeper breaths. There's going to be things that you can do, but the essence of your voice is probably not going to change too much.
Yeah.
The things you can do is inflection. You can do more pauses, possibly, but your voice is going to be basically your voice. Even the early Ronald Reagan voice versus the late Ronald Reagan voice wasn't that different. You could tell it was the same person, just different ages and a different communication style. Probably the most drastic voice I've ever heard in the political leader is Margaret Thatcher. She changed a lot from when she first ran for parliament, and then when she was prime minister. She got that deep, very slow speaking pattern, and she had a more high tinny voice when she was younger. And she definitely worked on that. But that's one of the things that you will find out. There's a thing that people do oftentimes when they're speaking, and this diminishes the power of your voice, is when you end the sentence with a upward movement. It sounds like you are unsure of yourself. Like, what's a way to say it? So if you said 7 years ago, like you're not quite sure. It sounds like that. So so it sounds questioning, but people will do this in statements. And now that I say this, you're probably going to start hearing it in people, and in people that you're maybe not as sure about their positions on things. They'll do things. That's very much probably at the pro level to be able to hear those kinds of things and work on that with folks. And a lot of times it's just being aware of it. And that's why watching the video is going to be so important. This is as simple as record yourself, then actually watch the video. A lot of people record themselves, but they never watch it. Then look for what works. Then look for what doesn't work or doesn't work as well as you like it to. And then specifically on what doesn't work as well as you like it to, look for what's missing, and then build on the things that also work. So that's what you need to do, regardless of what it is. You can use this in fundraising calls. You can use this for television interviews. You can use it for print interviews as well. I recommend you record every interview you do anyway, and then go back and listen to it. And then you should use this for debate prep, absolutely. And one other piece of advice I would say, whatever you're recording, do it as close to, if you're doing it in practice, do the practice as close to the real thing as possible. So if you're going to do a debate where you're standing, do the practice with you standing so you can actually watch yourself doing it similar to how you would actually be doing it in the live performance.
And last thing I'll say is Stump Speech.
Yeah,
So
very much. Yeah.
um, and looking at that, and there's some other ways to do it. You can actually, that's one of the things where you could do it, so you can be seeing your facial expression. Something you can also do in the mirror, because you're not talking to anyone
Hmm.
else in that time, most of the time. So is another way to do it. But I would tape that as well, and get film of it and review it, because it'll also show you what's working and what's not working. And when you're out there, make sure that people are getting some video of you at these various events, so that you can be hearing it and get kind of what the crowd has, so that you can start to see, okay, yeah, hey, if your audiences are pretty similar, a comic has
Hmm.
fairly similar audiences
Yes.
as he or she goes from place to place. So guess what? If it bombs one place, it's probably bombing everywhere.
Yeah.
If if it's a material. Now the other thing you'll be able to get is that maybe the material's fine, maybe what you're saying is fine, and maybe what's missing is in the delivery.
Yeah.
So
It's really who you're being in the moment when you're speaking is more important than even what you're saying.
yeah,
So delivering something passionately, delivering something with energy, with a smile on your face is going to do a lot more than being timid and with a quiet voice or what have you. So that's great. On the topic of criticism. So I think what Sean's talking about is you're watching the audience. You're going to tell when they light up and when they like something, when they applaud, all those sorts of things. But don't make too much of all of it. And in particular, when someone comes up to you after and they tell you something about the speech, you can just take that and you can file that as more information. It's a gift that they've given you, but you also don't have to take it as though it's the truth because you know what you're trying to achieve. Your campaign knows what you're trying to achieve, and you can just take it as more information. Don't dwell too much on the criticism. This is advice for campaign operatives and consultants who are helping the candidate. The first thing to do is when you watch tape with a group is the candidate is the first one to start. Now, on this, if you're a candidate and you're watching yourself, this is for anybody who's going to watch who is the one being recorded and then is watching the tape. You should be the first one to speak about it. But you can be a tough critic, but you need to be a fair critic for yourself.
yep,
You're likely going to be the toughest critic of anybody. It's also why it's important that you go first. But that's why we try to have balance between the what worked and what didn't work, because you do need to be looking for what worked because you're going to build off of that. But you should go first, and you will probably self-correct almost immediately from just seeing what's working. You'll do more of that naturally, and then seeing what's not working, you're going to naturally either stop doing some of those things, or you're going to be thinking positively about how to um, bring in those things that may be missing. And then only at that point, then you have the other people bring in their critique, and they should focus on first what worked, and then go to the what didn't work and what may be missing. That's my advice for how to actually do that process with a group, and how operatives, that's the best way to do that. Don't go right for the jugular. I know that we want to do that, and I know that I've done that before. It's very common to just go right for the thing that you want to have fixed like right now, but that's not the way to do it. If you want it to be a productive and positive thing that is actually done regularly, so that the campaign performance does level up quickly.
yeah.
So let's see. Do we have any other questions? I don't think we do.
Let's see here. No, not on that. I think again, I just want to recap. This is so important. You want to tape it. You want to be getting some sort of footage, some sort of look at what's going on every day, so that there is something for you to take a look at. Because you also want to see progress or things you might be falling into, or whatever else is going on. You're not going to be able to do that without doing that. So I do think that is probably, if you're looking for the most important takeaway, that is that. So, maybe important takeaway too, make sure you see our episode, What You Do Daily Gets Done.
Yep.
'Cause
Watch that one and then go back and watch Ultra Learning with Scott H. Young. It's a really excellent episode, and you can take in a lot of those different aspects, those 9 principles, and apply them to this process, to your communications. We always, when we work with people, we are out to win the election. And no matter what, we are going to leave that person, whether they actually get more votes than the other person or not. We are out to have them be a powerful political leader, the kind of person who now has more influence because they decided to step up, to show up, to speak up as a candidate for office. And the only way that's going to happen is if they take their communications ability to the next level. So thinking about it that way, if you're going to run for office, you don't know what the outcome is going to be. You can't know that. But you can do everything you can to put yourself in the best position. And part of that is that no matter what, you get out of that race, that you're going to be a powerful political leader no matter what. And you will have taken the opportunity to be on the campaign trail, to be in the line of fire, taking on whatever it is that you're taking on, whatever issues, your message, and using it as an ultra learning project to get really good at being a powerful political leader, being a great communicator. So if you want more of those great political trade secrets, if you'd like to become a political trade secrets insider and get exclusive stuff like what we're talking about, go to politicaltradesecrets.com. Also at politicaltradesecrets.com, you can find that Scott Young Ultra Learning episode. You can find a number of episodes. We've talked about this kind of topic many times. We have a crash course on interview prep. If you have a media interview that's going to happen in 20 minutes, how do you do a crash prep to get ready for that? So you can go and check all that out. And you can also get a text from us with the most freshest political trade secrets also. So text me at 202-918-3345. Again, that's 202-918-3345. We also let people know about the upcoming episodes, which, by the way, we're going to have our big show weekly podcast tomorrow, where we're going to be, we might have a couple of clips from earlier in the week, but it's where we're focusing our interviews and bigger topics. And tomorrow we're going to be having a candidate on. And because yesterday, one of the great questions that we got was, how can candidates talk about critical race theory? How do candidates respond to critical race theory? So, this is how your questions and comments, your text messages to us, that it really does inform us as to what we're going to talk about. So we're going to have a candidate on, and Sean, if you'd like to share with people what we're going to be doing tomorrow, I think this is going to be really excellent.
Yeah, we've got a candidate for Congress going to be on tomorrow. Her name's Ruth Edmonds. Going to be talking about how candidates can talk about critical race theory and some of these other topics where I do think candidates can get stopped, and you really have to make sure that you are being clear on what it is that you want to accomplish and what would make the difference. And that's what we're going to be talking about tomorrow with her, because it is just so critical that you really be clear on that, be able to deliver that to whatever audience you're in. And so, and I think we've seen some examples of politicians or former politicians, current puppeteers, talking about this. So you might tell us a little bit more about that, Dustin.
Yeah, and Colin says, good stuff today. Thank you for the kind words. So I think it's really great to have Ruth on. She's an ordained minister. She grew up in the inner city of Baltimore with her grandma Pearl, and she's really an American story. She worked 2 jobs to put herself through college in Ohio, and now she's running for the 15th congressional district. It's a special election that's happening this summer. She is an African American conservative leader who she's the former NAACP president for Columbus chapter, and she's a strong conservative voice out there who is really taking on this topic. And I saw recently, just a few days ago, she was at a local school board meeting. We're seeing this happen across the country, but she gave an impassioned plea for having an educational system that focuses on the facts, that honors 1776 and not 1619. And she had it was a very positive way that she spoke about our country, and not really getting into being really angry about it, but really focusing on a more empowered point of view. And I think that's going to be a great voice for us to hear from to talk about this topic specifically.
Yeah, absolutely. So don't miss it tomorrow. It's going to be a great episode. And speaking of not wanting to miss things that need to happen, like deadlines,
Mm-hmm.
there are some of those coming up for people that are petitioning onto the ballot. If you're running for, mayor, city council, some of those things this year, as far as running for office. Then we also have issue campaign trying to get onto the 2022 ballot. You don't even think about this right now, right? We're in the middle of 2021. You don't even think about the November 2022 ballot. But for issues to get on the ballot, they've got to be doing that right now. And so reach out to our friends at Grassfire. It's www.grassfire.us. No issue, no candidates ever won an election without being on the ballot. That, fact check me.
Mm-hmm.
So go check that out. But you look, in front of the grocery store, over the phone, on your doorstep, you want someone who is going to represent you with the approach that you deserve, in a way that is integrous, in a way that actually speaks to who you are as a leader or your issue, and represents it well. Well, no one does that better than Grassfire. So reach out to them.
Because at the end of the day, for most people, this person who knocks on their door or calls them on the phone or is in front of the grocery store with your petition is likely going to be the only person they meet that represents you as the future member of Congress, the future U.S. Senator, future governor, future county commissioner. This person is the representative of you. And if they look like they may also live outside of that grocery store, that's not going to be a great, feeling that you're going to leave these people with. It's not going to leave that professionalism, that leadership that you hope to communicate. You want this person to be someone who is equal to the office that you are seeking to hold, and that they can represent you as that future office holder. So that's really important. And thank you, Sean, for sharing that. People can go to grassfire.us to schedule a complimentary consultation, and recommend that they do that. Sean, thank you for the great background for today and insights, and all the sports trivia as well. That I know you used to host trivia nights, and I'm sure you've used a lot of this stuff in those trivia nights.
I have. So it's been that background's been was very helpful for this. But really appreciate the show today, and then what you were able to really bring to how you've seen this work. Because one thing that we mentioned in the introduction is that this is something that very few campaigns do. So when you do it, you are giving yourself a leg up. And will it be uncomfortable? Almost assuredly.
Yes.
It will be uncomfortable.
But the results will be fairly quick. Yeah.
Yeah, and it is about instantaneous. So do encourage you to do it.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. And thank you to all of you in the audience who are partners in bringing this to you, because we received messages from numerous folks who let us know that there was a problem with the feed earlier with the sound, and thank you for that. So we're able to I could have just been talking all day long without knowing that no one could hear me. So thank you to everybody for helping out with that process, and for being committed to empowering our fellow Americans to be the most effective citizens possible, as well as powerful political leaders for their community, for their state, and for our country, all in the name of reigniting American patriotism. Thank you very much. We'll see you tomorrow for our weekly Big Show podcast, and have a great day.
Join us next time by subscribing on iTunes and get show notes and sign up for our newsletter at politicaltradesecrets.com.